Guts Blackpowder is one of the most unique zombie games on Roblox. That is an undeniable fact. It takes the overused premise of zombies and puts them in the underused setting of the Napoleonic Wars to make it stand out from the other games. And having to use the limited technology of that era and the references to historical events is what gives G&B its charm, if you will. I know that I'm a little late to reviewing this game, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents in the discussion, but procrastinated. Let's start off on a good note with the things I liked about the game. First of all, fighting off seemingly insurmountable hordes of undead while classical music plays in the background really makes me feel sort of hype that I haven't seen in any other Roblox game. And the use of classical music doesn't bother me like it usually does. In other media, it feels like they just use it because it's recognizable and copyright free, but in G&B it actually fits the setting and the mood. I talked about this in the intro, but I want to talk about it more here. Every other zombie game on Roblox takes place in either World War II or modern day, and it consists of gameplay ripped straight out of COD Zombies with maybe a few tweaks, or it's a boring survival game. In G&B, however, they go way back before automatic weapons were invented. But not only that, you have objectives and short campaigns that all encourage teamwork while slowly building up to a grand finale, the survivor's escape. And it's always nice to see indie devs making unique experiences rather than COD Zombies 9000 Reason to Die. However, like everything to exist, it has its flaws, and G&B is no exception. And it is important to point out the flaws in something so they can improve. If nobody ever pointed out the flaws in American labor laws, well, we'd still have slavery. And well, you don't like slavery, do you? Well, I say difficulty, but G&B seems a little more frustrating than difficult at times. Take a look at this clip I found on YouTube. I feel like this clip sums up a lot of my problems with this game. The player in front of him gets grabbed by a shambler, the most common enemy in the game. And the small game design fact, players like to be in control of their character, so any sort of mechanic that slows you down or stuns you can make the game less fun. Or, in other words, people like to be able to play the game. So when a single common enemy stun locks you with every attack, it removes the fun from the game a little. Imagine if you were playing Left 4 Dead and all the zombies were replaced with hunters. The runner jumps over his teammate with no real warning that he's about to get tackled. In a game that does special zombies that pin you correctly, Left 4 Dead 2, each special infected has some sort of cue that they're about to attack, and some way to avoid it. Each one will make different noises, and with their own personality, if you will. They even have musical cues for when they spawn. And for when they're actually about to attack you, they have some way to avoid it, as mentioned earlier. Let's take the hunter, for example. They scream and jump at you in a straight line. This can easily catch new players off guard, but experienced players learn to dodge out of the way and use the shove mechanics to their advantage to take care of the hunter, acting as a sort of parry, if you will. But in G&B, they kind of just run at you. You can kind of make them run in circles, but it feels more like you're exploiting shitty AI rather than a properly designed weakness. His teammate tries to save him with a pistol, but he somehow misses a point-blank shot, so he gives up and this guy gets Left 4 Dead. But the thing is, he probably didn't miss, as showcased in this other clip. This guy sprays into the runner with a fully automatic rifle without it even pretending to be phased. And I find it really hard to believe that he missed every single one of those shots aimed right on his back from point blank. I assume this is a bug because there's no way in hell this is an intended feature. But back to the first clip. The officer is still to blame here because he decides that reloading is more important than this guy's life for some reason. But I think I know why. According to the wiki, it takes 6 seconds to reload the pistol, the fastest loading firearm in the game, and that's only for one shot. It just so happens to also take 6 seconds for the runner in the video to kill this guy at full health. The human mind is inherently selfish to a certain degree, and when weighing out the options between having a loaded gun in a game where safe moments to reload are scarce, or saving a teammate that's not guaranteed to pull his own weight, seeing as he was already pinned, and at such an early point in the level, this guy clearly chose a selfish option. Of course, this isn't the smartest decision, but these are obviously new players, seeing as all 6 of them failed to save one man that they were practically surrounding. And for my final complaint about this clip is how quick the time to kill for the runner is. You think that 20 players is plenty for them to notice and save you in 6 seconds, but you'd be surprised how oblivious players can be at times. I'm pretty sure 90% of my runner deaths have been right next to an oblivious teammate, and the other 10% actually couldn't help me. This problem could be mitigated by the callouts update they said they'd be releasing, i.e. some guy screaming help or get it off me, but you could also just have a generic stock scream sound effect play over it until then. I know you already make a noise when you get grabbed, but you kind of just let out a small yelp before going dead silent. Could also just make it longer for them to kill you, or you could just do both if so inclined. I think the base problem is that GNB, in a lot of cases, puts realism before gameplay, which means that gameplay can feel annoying at times. If your horse falls off a cliff and it dies, that's realistic, but it's annoying. Of course, if my horse had survived, I'd make fun of the game for being unrealistic, but the game would be better off if it had just made that exception. Also, apparently, I hope I'm wrong, but I think GNB has random spread on every gun, but do with that what you will. Objective mode helps GNB stand out from other games by not just being another zombie survival game. Endless mode takes that, throws it out the window, poisons its swine, shoots it, and then throws it into the river. Objective mode had a constantly changing goal other than just surviving, but endless mode is literally just killing zombies for eternity. Every wave is just the same 5 zombies running at you in different intervals. Nothing rarely ever changes. What makes this worse is that you have to get to wave 35 in order to get the cool old guard regiment that everyone wants. I feel like if endless mode was more fun, not easier, but just more fun, more people would have old guard. Also, I personally don't have old guard, but I feel like one regiment is kinda lackluster for such an accomplishment. Especially when France, the only nation with old guard available, isn't available on a lot of maps. I feel like I might get some flack for saying this, but the guns seem to consistently throw off new players, including me when I first played GNB. Everyone I've seen, including YouTubers, treats the game like a generic FPS when they first play. This is especially a problem when each gun takes at least 6 hours to reload and zombies randomly become bulletproof for some reason. They also have reload resuming, so if you were interrupted during a reload, it restarts where you left off, except only on certain points for some reason. Guns in this game feel more like throwable items in Left 4 Dead. They're only used in certain situations rather than a primary weapon. For example, muskets and pistols should only be used to dispatch of special zombies before they cause any serious damage, and blunderbusses are used to get rid of crowds, or they're only used to dispatch special zombies before they cause any serious damage because screw class-specific roles, I guess. I know that the bad section was a whole lot longer than the good section, but you can still genuinely enjoy this game, and I personally enjoy it myself sometimes. But I feel like the peak experience is when you're playing casually and you're not playing endless mode. Fuck endless mode. Although I feel GNB could be a lot better, it still has its moments. So I think I'll have to give Guts Blackpowder a 6 out of 10. I'd like to state here what I'd change about the game, perhaps to help mitigate its flaws or emphasize its strengths. I like to believe it's more helpful than just complaining. Some of them might seem like I'm just suggesting straight up Left 4 Dead with muskets, but I tried to keep in mind that these are still pretty different games, and some mechanics from Left 4 Dead wouldn't fit in the slower pace of GNB. Also, I'm fully aware that multiple of these would get me a suggestion banned from their Discord server, but this isn't their Discord server. I'd also like to hear the reasoning behind some of these decline suggestions because some of them are kind of weird. Instead of having one zombie stun lock you and having 4 be enough to insta-kill, have zombies slowly swing at you, like they technically already do, but only sometimes for some reason, and then have 4 hits be enough to down you. Of course, the downed player's health would have to be higher than 4 hits worth of HP, so maybe something like 8 hits. I personally like it because it still encourages teamwork while also being a bit more forgiving on the player and less annoying. Also, runners can still grab you as long as they're technically avoidable. Also, I'd like to point out that the grabbing thing gives the impression that zombies are more interested in eating you, but zappers and bombers seem a lot more interested in just killing you. The devs said they were considering adding a tutorial, but I personally think a much better idea from, get this, Left 4 Dead 2 is to have a quick and simple tip or hint on how to play the game pop up when they're relevant to the player's current situation. This is better for a multitude of reasons. First of all, the devs don't have to spend forever making a tutorial level. And second of all, the players don't have to spend forever playing a tutorial level. And third of all, if you have a tutorial separate from the rest of the game, it's hard for players to remember every single detail they were given during that said tutorial level. Also, I know they show the keybinds for each weapon's unique abilities, but they don't even do that correctly sometimes. Just have the player continually scream for the duration that they're pinned instead of just one short yelp. A placeholder for voice callouts until they can get the voice actors for all the different nations and languages. People still want to be able to get information to their teammates without having to type, so something in the same vein as voice commands, but just with chat messages, could solve that. These might also have to be combined with voice commands, so you can actually understand all the different languages. You'd also have to differentiate callouts from typed messages. There's already a few suggestions on their Discord server that'll just flash on screen right now, but I have my own suggestions. I am fully aware that the devs said no, but in their words, mini-bosses may not fit with the game. They did not outright say, mini-bosses will not fit with the game, so one can hope. For my idea, every 5 or 10 waves, a mini-boss spawns with cool boss music. One of the few mini-bosses I could come up with that made sense, and was unique to the setting, was the cavalry zombie. Imagine a zombified cuirassier, or a dragoon, bound to the top of a horse swinging at you and your teammates with a sword, and maybe even throwing grenades at people camping on ledges. Kinda like the Headless Horseman from the Halloween event, except a little less powerful. I'm also fully aware that they said don't suggest new zombies, but personally I think you should eat my survival mode. Instead of endless mode, have survival mode. It's basically the same thing, except it only goes on for, let's say, 35 waves. I think this is better because actually accomplishing something like beating game in survival mode actually gives you some sort of dopamine rather than endless mode. Other than the changes mentioned with the downing system, like no shambler grabbing, I feel like the special zombies should have unique sounds to help distinguish them from the rest of the horde. Now that I think about it, they should just make any sound in general. It feels like zombies are trying to sneak up on you sometimes. The shamblers being quiet is alright, and the runners technically mumble and growl a little, but I think it could be better. Make runners scream nice and loud for all to hear when they're about to pounce on you, like when they go into the crawling animation. Have bombers make some sort of noise when they're walking around. Maybe like the heavy weight of the barrel makes them grunt with each step, and when they light the fuse they start screaming. If you were about to explode, you'd scream too. I know that you can technically hear the fuse being lit, but it's kinda quiet and you can't tell it apart from the sound of a teammate's grenade. Have zappers make literally any sound. I don't think I've ever heard one even so much as breathe before. I don't get why they'd make such a powerful enemy dead silent. Have his equipment rustle around with each step as well as a thud each time his foot hits the ground. He could even make some sort of unique gurgling or mumbling sound as he approaches. Also, have them make some sort of sound of exertion when swinging their axe. It just makes sense, especially for how much effort it looks like they're putting into that swing. Also, make all special zombies just spawn less often. There's no reason there should be 5 bombers on the map in the same 30 seconds. Also, as a bonus, I think that Special Infected should be differentiated from Shamblers by having soldier uniforms, kind of like what Shakos were meant for in the first place. You could also change runners into bayonet/melee chargers to become less generic zombies as a bonus. And also change it so they don't turn, or turn a lot less when they're about to pin you or go into the crawling animation. Just a few quality of life changes I'd like to see. They're not huge, but I feel like they'd make the overall gaming experience just a little better. Have the grenades emit a small light source. That's about it. Have class icons appear next to people's names on the leaderboard. This has already been suggested by multiple people on the Discord, including me, but the developers haven't accepted it or declined it, or acknowledged it at all, it seems. I don't see why they wouldn't though. Make dying more dramatic. As of right now, all your UI just disappears and you get to spectate. Have some sort of death sound play that only you can hear, or maybe a screen shake and color correction effect. And dying will actually look cool instead of slowly finding you can't control your character anymore because a zapper sneak attacked you. Have Surgeon available for all nations. It feels weird that they don't already do this, and it's kinda annoying that they don't. Have a simple cutscene after you complete an objective map. Nothing too crazy, perhaps just a zoom out to an aerial view of the map with the survivor's escaped text, slowly fading in as you get a view of what you just went through. Have your character re-equip the item you were holding before you getting pinned after you get saved. Here's a few UI changes I'd like to mention. Put the store button under the play button in the main menu. Having it at the top makes it really hard to see. Make it so you pick a class first when you open the class menu. Then have a separate nation and regiment menu that gray out the options that don't fit the class you picked. Not too sure about this one, but it was a suggestion that my friend told me, and they said they wanted faster reloads. In his words, you get one shot off, but it takes too long to finish reloading before you get grabbed by a zombie. I don't 100% agree with this, as your teammates can protect you as you reload, but I can still see where he's coming from. In other faster paced games like Left 4 Dead, it takes 2 seconds to load 50 bullets, but in G&B, it takes 6 seconds for one. That's the fastest base reload speed in the game. 6 seconds of reloading in a video game is like 6 seconds of planking while a bear eats you alive. For a better comparison, Sea of Thieves takes about 2 seconds to load one bullet. That's 60% faster than G&B, and that's still considered slow. You could change it to be like Sea of Thieves, where the reload skips a few steps, but this game has too much a focus on realism, so they wouldn't do that. But they did. They admit in the official wiki that the reload for the shotgun is way faster than it is in real life, and they have no other reason to do this other than for gameplay purposes. I don't see why they couldn't do this to the other weapons. Of course, the shotgun takes way longer to reload compared to the other guns, but every muzzleloader takes way too long to reload. Also, if reloading muskets quickly is too unrealistic, are zombies not? Or, if that's too much, you could have reload resuming be based off percentage rather than specific steps. This might sound stupid, but in the heat of a horde, you can get stuck on one really long part of reloading, and it can get really annoying. And I think that's all I have time for. There's a few things I wanted to go over, but I had to cut them out. Line issues, zombie ideas, map ideas, community servers, random private servers, etc. I know it was pretty long, but I just want this game to be the best it can, like I do with any game I play. Since this is Roblox, almost every game is an indie game, so there's actually a chance that it does actually listen, unlike TF2 fans begging Valve to do literally anything for 7 years to no avail, which is why I like to make these videos on Roblox games. Also, I'd like to say that before anyone comments on my suggestions to make the game easier, that I should just get good, remember that not everyone wants to play a difficult and challenging game, and if you did, just play hardcore mode.